Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're the place where we really try to get behind those big corporate announcements. Today, we are diving deep into a giant AT&T, our plan, to unpack their latest Q2 2025 earnings and, well, another really fascinating document we found. We want to pull out the key insights, maybe even some surprises.
Exactly. And look, this isn't just a numbers game, right? It's about seeing the trends, the shifts in strategy, the dynamics shaping a company this huge, and crucially, what it all means for you.
Okay, let's jump right in. Top-level financials for AT&T's second quarter 2025. Total operating revenues came in at $30.847 billion. That's up 3.5% from last year. And if we break that down, service revenue, their main thing, they grew 1.1%. But equipment revenue, that jumped quite a bit, up almost 16% to $5.555 billion. What's the immediate story here, beyond just, growth?
Well, these numbers suggest they're navigating a pretty complex market quite successfully. And it's not just small growth. Net income attributable to AT&T, that climbed over 25% to $4.5 billion. That's pretty significant. It hints at, good cost control, maybe those newer fiber and 5G services really starting to pay off. And here's a key health indicator: free cash flow. It hit $4.4 billion for the quarter. That's up from $4 billion last year, shows they're generating solid cash right from their operations. Always a good sign.
Right, solid cash. And despite that, they're still putting money back into the business. Capital investment, $5.1 billion for the quarter. What does that level of spending tell us about their priorities right now?
Yeah, $5.1 billion. It's not just spending, it's a strategic signal. It's only a modest increase year over year, which suggests maybe a more disciplined approach, perhaps focusing on getting the most out of recent upgrades rather than just building everywhere. It looks like they're reinvesting where they see the biggest future payoff, essential for the long haul in telecom.
Speaking of payoffs, let's talk mobility. That segment saw some really strong numbers. AT&T added over 400,000 postpaid phone customers in Q2. That kind of growth pushed mobility service revenue up 3.5% and EBITDA up 3.2%. Can you quickly remind us what EBITDA is and why that growth matters?
Sure. EBITDA, earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization. Basically, it measures profit from core operations before financing, taxes, or non-cash stuff like equipment depreciation. So a 3.2% jump in mobility EBITDA means their core wireless business is getting more profitable. And importantly, these 400,000 adds, they're new high-value postpaid customers, not just people switching from prepaid. These are the customers really driving that service revenue and profit growth.
Okay, great additions, but there's always another side, isn't there? We did see churn tick up slightly. Postpaid phone churn was 0.87%. That's up 17 basis points or 0.17 percentage points year over year. What's behind that? Is it something to worry about?
Yeah, it's a fair question. Why the increase? A key reason they mentioned was customers hitting the end of their device financing deals. Plus, just more activity in the market overall. People shop around when contracts or financing ends, right? The company actually expects this kind of pattern, especially around new phone launches or holidays in the second half. So yeah, it's higher, but maybe not a huge alarm bell. Seems linked to normal market cycles.
And they're trying to fight that churn, right?
Yeah.
They launched the AT&T Guarantee earlier this year, promising better connectivity, deals, service. Sounds like early feedback is positive. Better net promoter scores, especially after network issues.
Absolutely. NPS, Net Promoter Score, is all about customer loyalty. So improving that shows the guarantee might be working. It's their way of saying, hey, we value you, stick with us.
It's a retention play in a tough market. Keeping those valuable customers is crucial. Okay, moving on from mobile, let's talk broadband. Another area where AT&T is really accelerating. They added 243,000 fiber subscribers in Q2, plus another 203,000 Internet AirNet adds. That's almost 450,000 new subscribers to their best broadband services in just 3 months. And listen to this. They nearly tripled their total quarterly broadband adds compared to just 1 year ago. That's huge.
It really is. And what we're seeing here is that convergence trend speeding up. Basically, more people choosing AT&T for both home internet, especially fiber, and their 5G mobile service. The data backs it up. They have a higher mobile share where they have fiber. And these converged customers, they churn less, they're worth more over time. That convergence rate hit almost 41% in Q2. That's a decent jump from Q1. So it's not just about getting more customers, it's about getting stickier, more valuable ones.
And AT&T Internet Air, AIA, seems like a big part of that story now. Over 200,000 net adds for the first time, bringing the total over 1 million subscribers.
Yeah, AIA is a really clever strategy. Their main focus is still fiber first. But Internet Air uses their upgraded wireless network, that mid-band spectrum, to offer fast internet in places before the fiber actually arrives. Think of it like a funnel or maybe a bridge. It gets customers onto their broadband network, and then they can be migrated to fiber later when it's built out. Makes the whole fiber investment more efficient.
Makes sense. Now, beyond those big growth areas, let's quickly touch on the other segments. Business wireline. Revenues there were down 9.3% year over year. EBITDA down 11.3%. But they said they're actually doing better than they initially expected. What's happening there?
It looks like they're managing a decline pretty effectively. Less pressure from old legacy services than anticipated, and their cost-cutting seems to be working. They plan to reinvest some of those savings into fiber and newer services for businesses, so trying to pivot that segment towards growth.
And the consumer wireline side.
That's looking much better. Total revenue up 5.8%, mostly driven by fiber revenue, which grew around 19%. And impressively, consumer wireline EBITDA was up almost 18%. They converted basically all that revenue growth straight into profit growth, even with legacy decline. Shows strong efficiency with fiber.
Got it. And quickly, Latin America.
Revenue's down about 4.4%, but that was mainly due to foreign exchange rates working against them. The underlying business actually saw operating income go up, and the EBITDA margin improved to over 19%. So operational improvements despite currency issues.
Okay, let's zoom out now. Look at the bigger financial picture, strategy, and how policy is playing a role. They ended Q2 with debt at 2.64 times their adjusted EBITDA. Still in their target range, which is good. And they finalized selling the remaining stake in DirecTV right after the quarter, July 2nd. Still over $4 billion in cash expected from that deal, mostly this year. That won't count in their main free cash flow number, but it's obviously a big chunk of cash coming in.
Right. And speaking of cash and policy, this is really interesting. There's new tax legislation, the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, enacted July 4th. This is expected to give AT&T huge cash tax savings. We're talking $6.5 billion to $8 billion between 2025 and 2027. That's not just a little boost, it's a potential game changer for their finances.
Wow, billions in savings. What are they planning to do with that?
Well, a big piece is going towards fully funding their employee pension plan, likely by the early 2030s. That takes a major long-term liability off their books. The rest effectively boosts their free cash flow. They now expect FCF for 2025 to be slightly ahead of their original guidance. It gives them a lot more financial flexibility, maybe faster fiber builds, quicker debt reduction, who knows?
That's a significant development, and it seems to tie into what the CEO said about the broader environment.
Exactly. John Stankey, the CEO, mentioned he sees the strongest pro-investment policy perspective in his entire career. He pointed to investment incentives, clearer telecom policy, plans for more spectrum. He thinks this is really positive for the industry, especially with big changes like AI coming, which need powerful networks. It sounds like they feel the government is encouraging companies like them to invest heavily right now.
Though he did mention some bumps in the road, right? Things like changes in government spending affecting some customers, or immigration impacting prepaid.
Yeah, it's not a perfectly smooth picture. There are always these sort of specific policy impacts causing some dislocation. And the other big uncertainty hanging out there is tariffs. If that situation gets resolved, it could really give the whole macro environment and companies like AT&T another significant lift. Reduce costs, ease supply chains. It's a big if, though.
So we've looked at AT&T from the outside market, finances, policy. But sometimes the most revealing insights come from looking inside. How a company operates internally, how it manages its people. And our deep dive found something really unusual, but incredibly telling. The AT&T Health Plan, specifically the one starting January 1, 2026. You don't usually find these in earnings materials, but it gives this unique view into their structure and how they handle key employees.
It really does. And what's immediately interesting is that it's a grandfathered health plan under the Affordable Care Act, the ACA. That basically means it existed before the ACA and gets to keep certain features, exempt from some of the rules newer plans have to follow. It gives them flexibility in how they structure benefits for the specific group. It's quite strategic.
And who gets covered and how is very specific. It's primarily for officers, which is a defined group for pay purposes. Active officers have, standard deductibles like $700, $750 for an individual, then 10% coinsurance up to an out-of-pocket max. But preventive, dental, vision seem to be covered 100%. Retired officers get 100% coverage after Medicare pays, as long as it's a qualifying medical expense.
But here's where it gets really intriguing, right? What happens if someone leaves or does something the company doesn't like? The plan includes very strict loyalty conditions. You find them in Article 8. Participants basically agree not to compete with AT&T or engage in conduct disloyal to AT&T for 2 years after leaving the company. That's a pretty powerful non-compete extending well beyond employment.
And they define those terms quite broadly. Engaging in competition means being in a similar business, same market, or even representing a competitor.
hmm And conduct disloyal to AT&T. That covers things like poaching employees or customers for a competitor, or, crucially, disclosing confidential information. And that definition is very wide: business plans, operations data, financials, pretty much anything non-public. It's not just about obvious trade secrets, it's about protecting the company's interests quite broadly.
And the penalty for violating these conditions, you forfeit your benefits under this plan. It's a fascinating mechanism. Ties valuable health benefits directly to post-employment loyalty. Really highlights how they protect information and try to retain senior people even after they've left.
And it underscores the value of these benefits. Look at the contribution costs. Active folks pay maybe $300, $800 a month depending on the tier. But if you leave and want COBRA, the cost skyrockets. Like over $3,200 a month for an individual, nearly $9,500 for a family. That huge difference really emphasizes the financial incentive to stay on good terms and adhere to those loyalty clauses.
Okay, so let's wrap this up. What does this all mean for you, our listener? We've clearly seen AT&T doubling down on connectivity, mobility, and broadband. Strong growth, strategic fiber and 5G investment, that clever internet era approach they're executing.
Yeah, and if you connect the dots, the solid financials, the strategic moves like buying Lumen's fiber assets, those huge tax savings coming, it positions them pretty well for more growth, more investment, and the CEO's confidence about the policy environment despite some headwinds, that's a key signal too, suggests they see a path forward for major investment.
But beyond the usual metrics, that peek inside via the health plan was genuinely surprising, wasn't it? Seeing how loyalty is defined, how benefits are tied to post-employment behavior for key people.
Yeah.
It's a different kind of strategic tool.
It absolutely is. And it leaves us with a question for you to think about. In today's world where talent and company secrets are so critical, could these kinds of sophisticated benefit structures, especially those with strong loyalty clauses, become even more common? How might that reshape the whole relationship between big corporations and their employees, especially in this digital age where knowledge is everything? Something to consider.